Well, hello everyone. It's Friday, November 25th, the day after Thanksgiving. It's time for another This Week in Crypto. I'm Dave Weisberger, the CEO of CoinRoutes, and not a whole lot has changed since last week's rant of mine. Market is still waiting basically on various shoes to drop or to actually be resolved. Specifically this week, all eyes seem to be on DCG and the complex that includes the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust as well as Genesis. It should be said that DCG, as a pioneer in the digital asset space, has a very large, very valuable suite of properties that they own. And much of what's going on in the market is revolving around questions of whether or not the Grayscale Trust, which is about 3.5% of all Bitcoin, will need to be liquidated. I will say that the market's basically being flat over the last week, and it's within 1% both on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Makes sense as people are worried about this, but from everything that we can deduce, it looks very unlikely that a major liquidation event such that would require them to sell the Bitcoin is on the horizon. Frankly, if it did, I strongly suspect it would create a tradable low as people swooped in to actually buy it at auction, but I don't think we're going to get to that. The reality of the situation is what happens with Genesis, and I have no insight into that whatsoever, is one thing, but DCG, and in particular the Grayscale Trust, is a different kettle of fish entirely. And it looks like it's fully collateralized, at least in the sense of if you own GBTC, there really are reserves for the full trust sitting at Coinbase. But enough of that. We have yet another week, and people are now looking forward to, I guess, next week, Sam Bankman-Fried being allowed by the New York Times to have a pulpit at their Deal Book conference, which, frankly, I find intellectually disgusting. I don't care that Andrew Sorkin says he's going to hit him with the tough questions. The reality is, why would we allow him to be listened to, except insofar as if it was a federal or some other regulator or prosecutor asking him the hard questions? There are a bunch of things that are clear at this point. It is very clear that client funds were misused. That misuse is defined under U.S. law, at least, as theft. People such as myself who had assets on FTX US, we were assured our assets were there. They're no longer there. Well, if they're no longer there, that means someone stole them from me. I did not give permission to lend them out. I did not give permission to use them for other collateral. The fact of the matter is those assets were stolen as far as I'm concerned. It is also clear that instead of what the media called a white knight scenario, where Sam was bailing out Voyager and BlockFi to shore up the crypto ecosystem, it's extremely clear that what he was trying to do was shore up his own books by using their client assets as a conduit for him to be able to continue funneling money from one hand to the other, mostly to pay for Alameda and some of his other extravagances, which includes effective altruism. It's pretty clear from his own tweets that he basically is owning up to the fact that most of all of the stuff that he said in terms of donations and effective altruism was a heaping pile of dog poop and really just designed to make people think that he was a great guy. It is incredibly clear that Alameda was excluded from the vaunted FTX risk engine, which I and many other commentators supported vis-a-vis the CFTC. To be honest, I still think that real-time risk makes sense. I still think that a liquidation engine that can keep people's losses confined to the collateral they posted is a far better market structure for derivatives, but obviously it will need to be done in a platform where the custody of those assets and the custody of that collateral is not just separate from the exchange engine, but also independently auditable for its liabilities. The conclusion here is pretty simple. It's very clear to me that there will be regulation that comes out of this. My hope is that it focuses on the key issues. The key issue in this particular case is ring-fence customer assets. Provide for, if places where custody is going to matter, provide for that custody to be separable, demonstrably separate, and demonstrably there. The notion of combining all of these things into one vertically integrated silo is very difficult. I could see it combined for a day because the idea of facilitating individuals from being able to trade on an exchange and then pull it back off onto exchange for self-custody requires the exchange to have some ability to contact and deal with these assets. But that's not the same thing as if they are custodying assets or if they are custodying assets as collateral. That settlement should be a separate step, and that separate step can allow the kind of protections that people want. Unfortunately, we're still in a situation where we'll see what the politicians do. We'll see what happens. We'll talk about it more in the future. But the fact is there's still a lot of risk to the crypto ecosystem. Things like DeFi, which are extremely important, which enables self-custody, is something that we believe needs to be facilitated. After all, in a digital world, we lack the ability to just use cash. And we all like the ability to just use cash for individual transactions. Bitcoin was designed for it to be a peer-to-peer network, and improvements such as the Lightning Network have made it so much easier to do that. In order to do that from a self-custodial solution, however, we need to have the ability to do so without it being considered criminal from the federal government or other governments. In any case, we'll worry about that later. For now, let's just keep it short because it's a holiday weekend. Stay safe, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your holiday.